Your neighbor knocks on your door. Her face is pale. Her hands are shaking. The priest needs to speak with you, she said, about what happened to my child. You don't remember anything happening to her child. But in this world, in this time, memory doesn't matter. Accusation is enough. Welcome to the medieval witch hunt. This is not history. This is what it felt like to be accused when belief was law, when survival meant proving your innocence in a world designed to prove you guilty. I'm going to put you inside this world, not as an observer, as the accused. Because if you understand nothing else about witch hunts, you need to understand that it was not about witchcraft. It was about fear. And fear makes people dangerous. You live in a small village, 30 houses, maybe 40 families. Everyone knows everyone's business. Secrets don't exist here. Privacy is a luxury no one has. Your name is Sarah or Margaret or Ann. The name doesn't matter. What matters is what your neighbor believes about you. Your neighbor's child has fallen ill, not a normal illness, a violent, unexplained sickness. The child convulses, screams that make no sense, vomits blood. The priest visits, prays. Nothing works. So the priest asks the question that will destroy your life. Who did this? And your neighbor remembers something. 3 weeks ago, you argued with her about borrowing milk. You refused. You left angry. That was all. A moment of anger. A normal disagreement. But now, with her child dying, anger becomes witchcraft. It was her, your neighbor says. I saw she was angry. She cursed my child. And just like that, you are accused. The priest listens. He does not question. He does not investigate. He already knows what he believes. Witches are real. They hide among us. They destroy through invisible means. Your neighbor's accusation is not proof he needs to investigate. It is proof enough. Because in this world, witchcraft explains the unexplainable. Why did the child get sick? Witchcraft. Why did the crops fail last summer? Witchcraft. Why is there pain? Why is there death? Always the same answer. Always the same enemy. You. By noon, everyone knows. The priest has announced it in church. There is a witch among us. He didn't use your name yet, but everyone knows who he means. They have seen you. Remember small moment. You live alone? Suspicious. You know about herbs. You must use them for spells. You have a cat? A familiar, obviously. You are older, past childbearing age, and what use are you but witchcraft? Every normal thing about your life becomes evidence of something supernatural. Your neighbors are not evil. They are afraid, and afraid people will destroy anything that explains their fear. They come for you at night. The constable, 2 men you know from church. The priest wants to speak with you. They say it is not a request. You are taken to a small room behind the church. There is a table, a chair, the priest, a scribe who writes everything. Are you a witch? The priest asks. The answer should be simple. No, but you already know that answering truthfully does not matter. If you deny it, the priest has an answer ready. Witches always deny. That is part of the deception. If you confess, you are guilty. You will be executed. If you refuse to answer, you are hiding something. Guilty. There is no path that leads to innocence. The investigation is not about finding the truth. It is about confirming what has already been decided. You are guilty. The priest's job is not to prove it. It is to extract the confession. And here is where the investigation becomes something else entirely. The witch's mark. The priest and his assistants undress you. They search your body for proof. Any mark? Any blemish? Any discoloration? A birthmark? That is where the devil touched you. A scar? Evidence of a spell. A mole? A place where a familiar fed. If they find nothing, there is another test. Pricking. A sharp needle is driven into your skin. If you don't cry out, if you bleed, if you don't bleed, any reaction becomes proof. This is not science. This is not investigation. This is torture disguised as examination. But the physical examination is only the beginning. Now comes the interrogation. Who gave you the power to curse? You don't have power. But saying that means nothing. The devil, the priest insists. Tell us about the devil. You have never met the devil, but the priest is patient. Surely you made a pact. Surely you signed your name in blood. Surely there are others, other witches. Tell us their name. And here is the trap that destroys entire villages. Because if you confess and name names of other witches, those people are arrested too. If you refuse to name anyone, you are protecting other witches. More evidence of guilt. Either way, you lose. If confession does not come through interrogation alone, the church has other methods. Torture. In the records, it is called questioning under duress. In reality, it is systematic pain designed to break the human mind. The strappado. Your arms are tied behind your back. A rope is attached. You are lifted slowly, higher and higher. Every muscle screams. Every joint feels like it will tear. Then you are dropped. Not all the way. Stopped abruptly, joints dislocate, you scream, everyone hears. Will you confess now? The priest asks. What can you do but say yes? And so you confess to being a witch. You confess to cursing the child. You confess to meeting the devil. You confess to things you never did because the pain is too much and your mind will agree to anything to make it stop. Other methods exist. The rack. Your body is strapped to a wooden frame. Rollers at each end slowly turn. Your limbs are pulled, stretched, tendons tear, bones dislocate. The water cure. Your head is forced back. A cloth is placed in your mouth. Water is poured. You cannot swallow. You cannot breathe. Your lungs fill. You think you will drown. Then they stop, let you cough, let you breathe, then do it again. Sleep deprivation. For days, you are not allowed to sleep. Your mind fragments. Reality becomes unclear. You will say anything. And through all of this, the priest believes he is holy. He is saving souls, extracting witches, protecting his village. The pain you feel is necessary. Your suffering is righteous. You are the evil. You are the problem. And your confession, extracted through systematic torture, is proof of God's work. After hours of torture, your body gives up. Your mind gives up. You confess. You confess that you are a witch. You confess that you cursed the child. You confess that you met the devil at midnight in the forest. You confess that you attended witches' Sabbath. You confess that you signed a contract in your own blood. You confess to things you have never done and never imagined. The priest nods, satisfied. His investigation is complete. The truth has been extracted. What he has actually extracted is the breaking of your will under impossible pain. But he calls it confession. And confession means guilt. And guilt means execution. The trial, when it comes, is not what you imagine. There is no evidence presented. Your confession is the evidence. There are no witnesses to defend you. Your neighbor's accusation is the only testimony. The judge does not question the confession's validity. He accepts it as truth. You stand accused of witchcraft. The judge announces to the gathered village, you have confessed. Everyone in the square has come. They watch, they listen. Some believe you are guilty. Others look uncertain, but uncertainty doesn't matter anymore. The machinery is in motion, and it cannot be stopped. The priest stands. God has revealed the truth. He says, this woman is a servant of darkness. He does not present God's revelation. He does not show evidence of divine judgment. He simply states it as fact. She must be purified by fire. It is the only way to save her soul, not to save her life, her soul. Because in this belief system, your earthly death is not the punishment. It is the path to redemption. They are not murdering you. They are saving you from eternal damnation. That is how they justify it. That is how they sleep at night. You are sentenced to death by fire, not immediately. There are traditions to follow. You are led back to a cell. A priest sits with you. He urges you to confess your sins, not your witchcraft. You have already confessed to that. But other sins, adultery, blasphemy, pride. He wants to hear all of it, so your soul can be clean when it leaves your body. You do not sleep. You know what is coming. The morning arrives. The entire village gathers in the square, hundreds of people, old and young, families with children, because this is entertainment. This is justice. This is necessary. A platform is erected. A stake is set. Wood is piled at the base. The priest walks ahead of you. He is calm, righteous. You are led by guards. Your hands are bound. Your legs shake so badly you can barely walk, but you reach the platform anyway. They tie you to the stake. Tight, you cannot move. The wood reaches your waist. The priest says final prayers. Forgive us for what we must do, he says to God. Not to you, to God. As if God commanded this. As if God approved. As if this is holy work. The executioner steps forward, a torch in his hand. He does not look angry. He does not look ashamed. He looks like someone doing his job. Last words? Someone asks. You try to speak, but your throat is dry. Your voice doesn't work. You have been screaming for days. Witch! Someone shouts from the crowd. Murderer! Shouts another. Not everyone is convinced of your guilt, but even those who doubt do not speak up. Defending a witch makes you a witch too, so they are silent, and silence is consent. The torch touches the wood. It catches immediately. The fire spreads fast. Heat rises. Your skin begins to burn. You scream. The crowd watches. Some look satisfied. Some look away. Some appear almost joyful. Your screams last longer than you expect. Minutes feel like hours. The pain is beyond comprehension. Your body convulses. Your mind fragments. And then, finally, merciful darkness. You die, not because you were a witch, not because you cursed anyone, but because you were accused. Because your village needed an answer to suffering it couldn't understand. Because fear makes people vicious. Because belief without evidence can destroy lives. And because once the machinery of punishment begins to turn, there is no force in this world that can stop it. Your body is gone. The village goes home. Your neighbor's child, he recovers. Not because you were a witch and are now dead. Not because the curse has been lifted, but because childhood illness is past. Because the body heals. Because you were never the cause. Your neighbor will never admit this. Your death was necessary. She she would tell herself. The witch was real. The threat was real. The execution was justice. Anything less would be admitting her guilt. So she maintains the story. Over time, it becomes the village's story. Do you remember when the witch cursed the widow's child? Yes, and we burned her. Justice was done. God smiled upon us. Your actual innocence is irrelevant. The narrative has been written, and narratives are more powerful than truth. This was the reality of witch hunts, not organized evil, not satanic conspiracies, not supernatural witchcraft, just ordinary people struggling to understand suffering in a world that offered no explanations. And in the absence of answers, they created enemies. They created witches. They created reasons that made their suffering meaningful. And they killed people to maintain those beliefs. Estimates suggest that between 40,000 and 60,000 people were executed during the European witch hunt. Most were women. Most were innocent. All were victims of fear disguised as justice. If you want to understand how ordinary people can commit extraordinary cruelty, this is it. Not monsters, not evil, just people terrified and looking for answers, finding a scapegoat and burning them alive. This happened not in ancient time, not in distant lands, but in Europe, in communities you recognize within the last 500 years. And if history teaches us anything, it is this: the machinery of false accusation is still with us. The fear that drives witch hunts still exists, and we are still capable of burning people alive, just with different methods. Maybe through social media, maybe through false accusations that ruin lives, maybe through mobs that demand punishment for the accused without investigation. The fire changes its form, but the impulse remains. And that is the true horror of history. Not that it happened once and ended, but that we are still capable of repeating it. If you want to understand what it felt like to live in different worlds, forgotten history, subscribe to Before We Were. What would you have done? Would you have defended the accused? Or would you have held the torch? Tell me in the comments.